Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is satisfaction. And we get to look at how we don't take the opportunity to be satisfied. In fact, we're culturally conditioned to never be satisfied. And what kind of space is that? And so anyway, it should be an interesting conversation. Before we get started, good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. Thank God it's Monday, right? A new day, a new week. We get to share together, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. And let's just take a couple minutes to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the motion, the pressure. And I really enjoy this. There's I want to keep doing it. It warms up my hands and it generates all this sensation and presence. And then notice the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form through which we experience every aspect of life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, satisfaction, what does that look like? I think we have this cultural idea that if you allow yourself to experience satisfaction, then you're experiencing complacency. And I don't think that that's the case at all. I think it's a matter of being able to be present, like when you eat a meal, if you're hungry, to have that hunger satisfied without more, without too much, without excess. And the cultural pressure to never be satisfied is making us gluttonous, is making us rapacious. Is it rapacious? Sorry, I think it's rapacious. In the world that, that we're consuming and consuming and consuming, and I think that satisfaction is the antidote to this more mentality that prevails in our world. I'm just looking up the word to correct it and see if what is yes, it's rapacious. And it means given to seizing for plunder or the satisfaction of greed. Interesting that they use the word satisfaction here, but we have been conditioned in so many ways to this perpetual greed for more money, more experience, more possessions. It's never enough. More accomplishments, more to do, more done, right? And so what if, where this comes from, I've spoken of it recently, and I'd love your feedback on this, actually. I am creating a course around healing our relationship with money and engaging Sorry, I have to check something here. Engaging in operating from new paradigms. Actually, they're not new, but healthier paradigms around money and sufficiency and satisfaction and true abundance, like the abundance of enough. And so I've been playing with titles, and I had come up with this title, Sacred Sufficiency, the Art of Being, Doing, and Having Enough. But I had some feedback from folks that sufficiency wasn't the greatest word. And so now I'm entertaining Sacred Satisfaction, the Art of Being, Doing, and Having Enough. And I'd love your feedback on those titles and what your response is to them, what you would imagine a course that had that title to be and to give you and to offer to you, and if it's something that would appeal to you. So this notion of satisfaction is to, in my mind, is to be able to be present and to be recognizing when enough is enough. So Rosalind says, both sound good, but the latter title is preferred. So Sacred Satisfaction. I think, thank you for that, Rosalind. I appreciate your opinion very much. And I welcome that feedback from whoever wants to make comments. I don't always get to check the comments very much, but I will here. I'm doing sort of a little bit of a survey to determine how best to move forward and to serve my intentions, and also to be able to provide the greatest service to the folks that will be attending this. So I think that this is a big deal, this conversation around satisfaction and sufficiency, because in our quest for more and more and more, what we're saying is never enough, right? There's never enough. And if there's never enough, we're always living in a space of lack. When we allow ourselves to be satisfied, there's a wholeness there. There's a satiety. I mean, maybe that's another, what about sacred satiety? Probably not as good as satisfaction. What do you think, Rosalind? And anybody else who wants to join in? I am going to write it down though, because, these inspirations come as they do. If you don't capture them, sometimes you lose them. So let me just write that down. Satiety. Yeah, when we tend to think that our meaning and our purpose is intimately linked with our doing and the volume of our doing, rather than the quality of our being that then inspires the doing. And that's a big distinction, because when we are present, when we are allowing ourselves, for instance, even after a meal, to find satisfaction in that, to be satiated, to so Rosalind says there's a completeness to satisfaction, like after that it's done. I love it. Like the need was satisfied, right? So it was completed. And so we go through this rather than having to have more and more and more and never being satisfied, which is really the case for most of us. We have this thing that we've wanted, we get it, and then a few minutes later, it's like, what's the next thing? We don't allow the satisfaction, the deliciousness of appreciation for the accomplishment, for the moment, for the thing even. We don't typically allow that to penetrate, right? And I think that when we are present, we can be, for instance, we can find deep satisfaction in a sip of tea. We can allow ourselves to taste it, to taste life, to savor life. I think that's another wonderful word, is savor. When we, I know I was in sales for more than 10 years. And in sales, you're only as good as your next sale. So there's never the opportunity to savor a win or to savor an accomplishment. And there's this drive that makes us all crazy as a culture, you know, that we need more. There's the constant drive to quote unquote improve, but more is not necessarily equivalent with improvement, right? And as we can allow ourselves a greater experience of satisfaction and satiety and savoring, all these great words, then we can allow ourselves to slow down, to be present, to have gratitude, to have appreciation, to relish life itself. You know, literally slow down and smell the roses. Literally, not just the roses, but the air, the flowers, to be present to what's around us, to be in a space of appreciation. I was listening to an interview. There's a series of interviews, really interesting, called Post-Doom Conversations. And this is a guy named Michael Dowd, who has conducted so far 90 interviews with all different people from all different arenas, looking at what it is to live now in this time of the great extinction, the sixth great extinction, and the climate chaos, and potentially the extinction of the human race, as well as many other living forms on this planet. And these conversations are coming to a reconciliation around this circumstance, this predicament, this condition, and how we can contend with that and be present to life. And part of that, I think, is to allow ourselves to connect to the beauty, to the vitality, to the connections, to the richness, to the deliciousness of life, even to the depth of sorrow or suffering. You know, there's a sweetness to that depth of emotion that it just, it opens the heart. It breaks the heart open. And I'm wondering if this, I think part of our quest for more, well, I think our quest for more is pretty much driven by the belief in separation, the belief that we're separate, the belief that we're in competition with one another rather than that we have this deep connectedness. And the competition notion, the opposition notion, is what puts us in this race for more, because we think that we have to be better, we have to accumulate, we're threatened, and as being threatened, we have to protect from those threats, and we have to defend and reinforce ourselves in a multitude of ways. And the question comes, when is enough enough? We've talked about this before, and are likely to be talking about it a lot in the future. We look at accumulation. Whoops, sorry about that. Sorry about that. And you know, it's interesting, speaking about this accumulation thing. There's a TV show called Hoarders, and I actually started watching one of those episodes, and this notion of collecting and is what's going on about that. It's what's underlying that, besides a lack of satisfaction, right? What's going on about hoarding, accumulating? When it gets to that degree, what's going on for that person, that they are compensating for something that they're not experiencing, you know, trying to maybe fill up a hole or defend from a certain darkness, or, you know, I don't think it's a simple thing, but where people will accumulate things to such an extent that they can't even move in their environment. And I think that that's a powerful metaphor for us to recognize that we can, in this quest for more, we end up boxing ourselves in. We end up limiting our choices. We end up limiting our potentials and our opportunities by pushing constantly. We'll stress ourselves out. We'll burn ourselves out, oftentimes pushing ourselves to a state of unwellness, mentally, emotionally, or physically, or spiritually, because of this accumulation. Sometimes it's, you know, doing for other people, even just more and more and more. What's happening with that? It may be motivated by a sense of guilt or not being enough. And really what we're talking about is allowing ourselves to be enough just by virtue of our being, that we don't have to prove anything to anybody, even though we have been conditioned into that mindset. We may have been told growing up that we were never, you know, we're never good enough. I mean, there were points in my growing up where it didn't matter what I did. I could never be good enough. I could never do it right. You know, so if I couldn't do it right, I couldn't be good enough, in other words. Rosalind says, what's going on when feeling incomplete without a partner romantically? Is that just our nature? I guess there are many sources of love. Wow. So, yeah, I'm not the best person to answer that question as far as what's going on when feeling incomplete without a partner romantically, because I don't have that powerful yearning that a lot of people have. At one point in my life, I thought I was really looking for someone to save me, frankly. You know, it wasn't that I was whole or complete. I was really looking for someone to save me. And so I had this yearning for what, you know, I was imagining as a partner who could be there for me, to help me through all these challenges and pearls and pitfalls of life. And I get, you know, it would be much easier in many respects to have a partner, but the thing, you know, I've had some not wonderful experiences. I grew up in a family that had a lot of disruption, emotional disruption, and anger and discord, and ended in divorce many years later than perhaps it should have, but we never know, you know. The intention was to provide the kids with stability, to stay together. So I respect that. And it was a torturous place to grow up for me. And it shaped me. So, but anyway, my associations with partnership have not been of the beautiful kind, you know, where it's love and support and reciprocity. And so in any case, I have cultivated, I'm quite content without a partner. So I don't know that I can speak to that desire for a partner, other than as looking for something to complete us. And I recognize, you know, it would be lovely to have somebody in my life to share the deliciousness of life with. And I'm open to that. But I haven't had the need for quite some time to seek it out aggressively or actively. So, but I know that that's some source of heartbreak for lots of people, that they're much more social, they're much more enriched by that level of communion and connection. And being in love is a beautiful thing, you know, that as far as the chemical set that's released when you're in love, it's like makes you glow, and life is good, and there's all kinds of joy in that. So I can understand desiring that, you know, wanting to call that in. I think I'm more of an introvert, so I don't have as much need for that kind of social contact. But I can imagine how beautiful it would be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on when feeling incomplete without a partner. I think the thing we get to work on is being complete. You know, isn't it better for two wholes to come together? I've heard a romantic statement, "You complete me." But how, if that's the case, I mean, what kind of, I guess then that partnership becomes more than the sum of the parts, right? And that would be ideal, I can imagine. But if we can find satisfaction within ourselves, if we can find satiety within ourselves, then when we come to connection with another, there's, you know, a synergy of two wholes that then maybe generates something new, rather than a synergy or a connection of two things that were lacking that then become whole somehow. I don't know. And it's pretty philosophical for me. What can I say? Getting back to this idea of satisfaction and satiety, what would it look like to be feeling satisfied and then allow inspiration to emerge from that rather than from lack? I think that's probably the same dynamic that we're talking about in terms of relationship. That if we find ourselves satisfied, then a new desire arises to be satisfied. But if we're satisfied, it's arising from a different place than if we're needy, because that need is always wanting to fill itself, right? And it's sort of a clawing need versus an inspired creation. I think the energy of the two aspects is very different. And it's the difference between the energy of competition and opposition to create something versus the energy of partnership and collaboration and communication to create something. Very different energies. And that's why sacred satisfaction, because it's a satisfaction of wholeness, you know, a satisfaction coming from presence. In my mind, that's what I'm looking to generate and cultivate for myself, and also in the intention of this course that I'm creating. So anyway, thank you for engaging in this conversation today. And I would love your feedback on those titles. If you're willing, whoever's listening or whoever checks this out, I'd be really curious to hear your responses. And that's it for today. So I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And until next time, so much love to you.